Hey everyone, it's Paul and Carolyn McElraith for another marriage moment, and we're at Family Day, February 15th. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, and we just got thinking, these 2 days, probably people are more intentional about the things that they do. We went for a walk and passed a lot of families just being intentional, spending time today. Yesterday on Valentine's Day, you probably were intentional about some things you did with one another, and that's important. And Carolyn actually, we both have spent some time over the last 2 days talking about what intentionality looks like in a marriage relationship, because it's so important. You were trying to make some time with a friend today to get together for dinner.
Yeah, so even in important friendships in your life, I think they don't just happen, you have to be intentional. So I have a really close friend in London, and we're trying to figure out when we can have dinner together. And yeah, it's important to plan those things, but it doesn't just happen.
And sometimes we put more energy into the intentionality with friendships, and we forget to put it into a marriage relationship. And you can kind of get into a rut. So Carolyn and I were coming up with a quick list just of some of the things that we are intentional about in our relationship with one another. And these all individually could make up a marriage moment, but we're just going to go through the list quickly. And if you want us to talk more about them in future, we would be glad to. But I think number one is just our spiritual lives. We make that an intentional part of our lives every day.
Yeah, we
do. So what do you do with your spiritual walk?
Yeah, so I'll have my quiet time in the morning in my chair, and I journal, and Paul will do the same. We're not doing it together, and yet if there's something we want to discuss, then we can discuss it throughout the day. And a lot of times we don't even discuss our own quiet time, but we're both intentional about that.
And I know when Carolyn's doing it. I sit across from her, especially during COVID when I'm working at home. I know when she's engaged. She knows when I'm engaged, and we can dialogue about that. But specifically, we've said this before, when we go on walks, that's our prayer time together, and that's so important.
Yeah, and it's easy to just walk and talk and enjoy what you're seeing, but we've decided to make it an intentional time of prayer, and it's been amazing.
Which then segues into our next point, time together. Carolyn and I, and again, we're at a different season of life than some of you. We realize some of you are raising young kids, and it's busy, but we encourage you with this next one. Intentionally make time together, just the two of you. And you have young kids, that may be difficult, but see if you can carve out time every day for the two of you. And we do it in a few different ways. We talked about our walks, so we do that lunchtime usually?
Yeah, usually on lunchtime we go for walks, but dinner is another really important time where we intentionally sit down, and even if you have a busy family with little kids, we get it, but you all have to eat. So if you can intentionally make that a time of family time together where you can share with each other, that's important.
And I would say, Carolyn, from the time the kids were young, that is something she has always just insisted on, that dinner time is a time the family gets together. And when the kids were young, it was chaotic around the table, but that was our time to actually hear from our kids, that we as a family could communicate together. And then Carolyn has kept that push for when it's just the two of us, because we're empty nesters for all intents and purposes. So tonight, Carolyn set the table already. We are going to sit down, no technology.
No technology, no TV. I got a thing about TV.
No TV. We're going to look at each other, and Carolyn does most of the cooking, and it's always an amazing meal. And that's our time. That's time. That's intentional time. So we make sure we do that. And then at night, we
watch Downton Abbey now.
we love after a busy day and things going on, we love if we can pick up a good Netflix series. We love watching it together. And so we'll spend an hour together at night where we're just, maybe it's mindless, but it's important, and we do it together.
But we do understand that we're in a different phase in life. And so, for example, my oldest daughter and son-in-law, they have two little ones, and Forrest isn't sleeping. They're exhausted. Yeah. And Brad just said to me the other day, by the time they finally get the kids to bed, they're too tired for anything. Yeah. And yet they're still trying to take a few moments to just connect. Yeah. And you can do that as fatigued parents.
Yeah, and we feel for it, but we've been there.
But don't lose sight of this, because someday the kids
they're going to be gone. You got to have this.
You got to maintain this foundation. You got to nurture it with intentionality.
And that leads to, as Carolyn and I are getting up there in age, we're really mindful of our health. And so we are intentional and we cheerlead each other in areas where we can help grow in our health and maintain our health. So we said about the walks already, but Carolyn got me as a Christmas gift.
A bike, an
A
indoor bike.
stationary. Now imagine, she got me as a Christmas gift an exercise machine. She wasn't trying to tell me anything, but since Christmas Day when you got that, we've been on it.
Yeah, we're on
five out of 7 days.
Yeah.
And obviously we can't do it at the same time. But I go down and do it early in the morning, do by 30 minutes on the stationary bike, and then Carolyn usually goes down a little later in the morning. Again, keeping our health as we get older is important because we want to spend as much time together as we can into our later years. In fact, we pray that we would have at least 30 more great healthy years together because we like each other. We want to spend more time together. We also like biking in the summer on trips and excursions. That's something that we do for our health, so it's very important.
There's so many different areas, though, in your relationship as a married couple that you need to be intentional on. And I think if you're not intentional, I think you can just kind of flounder in those areas. Physical intimacy is another one.
I'm gonna turn
important.
red a little bit with this one, but we feel it's so important.
So important.
Intentionality in the physical intimacy between a couple is so important. And this is something that Carolyn and I talk about, and we're intentional about meeting each other's needs and all of that.
And I think it's important as couples to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times couples don't talk about it, and we all know that men and women are different in this whole area, right?
Yeah.
And it can cause some real tension in a marriage. So you need to be honest and dialogue openly about it and figure out what works as a couple, and then be intentional on meeting one another's needs.
Yeah, and that's
Really
the key
important.
thing, meet each other's needs. And if you can walk through that and engage with that, that'll just bring you closer together. So, I mean, we can talk probably about a whole different marriage moment on that one, but it's key.
For sure.
It's a key one.
Yeah, it's
And I think financially is another one. Again, we can talk more about this in the future, but we really are intentional about the way that we engage aspects of our financial stuff that's going on around the house. Carolyn covers a lot of it. It's just something she's good at, and she's naturally taken most of it in our relationship.
He lets me.
But I have to, even though I want to fall asleep, when we're talking about our budget and our finances, I owe it to Carolyn that I engage her and encourage her because she puts a lot of time and effort into it. And so we regularly need to just sit down, go over some of the things that we're dealing with, and I need to pay attention because you do a lot of work.
You do, honey.
Right.
So I think today's moment is really all about intentionality. I think everybody's getting the drift on that.
Yeah.
And we could literally talk about each one of these in a moment in and of itself.
And maybe we will.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to give you a taste, especially coming out of a weekend where a lot of you have been intentional about things. Don't forget intentionality in your relationship. You can get into ruts pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So make time and put the effort into turning into one another in a lot of those areas that we talked about.
And let Christ be your center, your focus.
That's right. God bless you. Thanks for letting us
everyone.
come in, and we'll see you soon. Take care.